Hello. Hello, Chocy Chat. It's episode 157. It's the 22nd of November. Salma, you say hello. Say hello.
Hi.
Salma just bought me a drink. Hello, Chocy Chat. How's everybody doing? Happy Friday. It's Friday again. Comes around quick, this, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really
Seems
does.
like Chocy Chats every 2 days. We had a busy week this week. Busy. Right. Non-stop. Absolutely. Not complaining. How is everybody about you, James? Mother Baker's there. Hi, Mo. Erin's there. Erin, I just got your message. I'll come back to you at the end of Chocy Chat. Mother Baker's saying hi. It's Salma. S-A-L-M-A. Salma. You always get called Selma, don't you? Howdy. Who else have we got? Let's say some hellos out. So Nettie's there. Billy's there, I can see. Billy's all wrapped up in Ferrero Rocher this week. Mother Baker we can see in Northern Ireland. Ronnie in Denmark, I think. Who else have we got? Hudson's Chocolates, hello. Amani, hello. Who else got? Darren up there. Erin, who else have we got? Chocolate Seller. How's everybody doing? Abdullah, how are you? In Bahrain. And the crew, hi. Isle Bakes. Isle Bakes is just over the water on the Isle of Wight.
Really?
I know. This is Gina down in New Zealand. Surfer Lake Chocolates. Good morning, Chocy Chat crew. She's saying we got Kelly in Arkansas. Hi, Kelly. Luigi. We got Kathy there at Temper. Kathy did some really nice chocolates this week with the gold and bronze luster dusts. The gold ones, they were really good. They were really good. So, where's Umbra? Darren, up north somewhere. Harriet there. Don't worry about spelling. Sometimes my speaking's bad. Chocolate House. Do I make the Dubai chocolate bar? No. I don't jump on. No, I don't. Mixed feelings about the Dubai chocolate bar. I don't follow trends and fads. I don't. I set trends, but I don't follow them.
You mean that when you crack it open, there's like pistachio inside?
Yeah, it doesn't have a great shelf life.
No.
I think the original one, I've tried it. The original ones are very good.
I bet it's nice.
We had them in Jordan. Oh, you weren't with me. I went to see Chocolate.
No.
I had a day sampling chocolate, didn't I, in a factory. You just need
really
good
nice
pistachios. No, I don't like that. Dolce Mara's there. I think she's down in Johannesburg. Hello. Hashem, walaikum salam. Forest Rose Chocolates. British Columbia. Good evening from Innsbruck. House of Desserts. I love Innsbruck. I say this. I spent many of my school holidays down in Innsbruck. And time as a young soldier. You know the ski jump? Yeah, we went down that on tin trays and then we got ejected. Which means we were thrown out. Philippe there in Austria as well. Hello. Who else? We got people in Serbia. Yeah, Kathy did they had a massive power cut, as did Erin actually. Massive power cut, and she plugged her EzTemper into like a DC volt adapter and kept going, right? Just got to find the solution, just got to keep going, just find a way to keep going, right? So who else we got? Mariba there, down in New Zealand. Do you remember Michelle from Savoury Eats? Michelle was here from Arizona.
Yeah.
Who else we got? Lots of people. We're all last. Say some hellos out. James, how do you remember who we all are and where we all are? That's the gift, right? I like what I do. I remember somebody wrote a review and said, I really like the products. James treats his customers like they're his friends. I don't think there could be kinder words, right? Because we talk to all our customers. We're not there's never ever been a plan for us to turn into this massive corporate monster. I guess the factories will get bigger. I guess the sales will grow. I guess the product lines will get bigger. How much longer I can continue? I've answered lots of calls today. There's various people had huge problems and they've sent me photos saying, really need to talk to you. What's happened here? Everybody's head down in production. I won't name their names, but I try to, and I will pick up the phone if I can help. if I know the answer, I'll help. Just this time of year is about kind of everybody's just head down trying to get product made so that they can make money, because that's the aim of the game, right? We have very loyal supporters of this stuff, so why wouldn't I help? And I think Chocky Chat, there's lots of people that I know, so of course I remember where they're from, and lots of people have visited here, and lots of people have done classes, so that's the gift, isn't it? I get to do that because I'm not this giant corporate organisation removed away from what's actually happening. It's nice, I like it. That was always the plan, to stay close to the customers and have a friendly business, right? I've been meaning to message and say thank you for the lightning fast delivery, so impressive. Outside of the EU, deliveries are brilliant. Anything going to the EU is just like it's snail mail. I have no idea. I think the EU is living in a third world, fourth world state where nearest country to us is Holland and Belgium. Can take 3 weeks. Don't ask me why. No idea at all. Absolutely no idea at all. Evelyn there, Chocodilic in Jersey. Chocolate's buying a shill. Chocolate's by Neander. Shall I still expect an answer? I'm getting started on email. If you saw how many emails we have a day,
There's a lot.
it's in the hundreds. Thousands a week. Most of the emails are, how long will it take to get to X place? It's like, I can't answer that. So it's in there somewhere. Mrs. So Sassy will get to it. Your email, you asked me, when am I going to start doing the classes again? All the classes are on hold at the moment. And the other question is, any plans to come to, you said Sweden, I think. Is it Sweden to come and teach? No plans to go into the EU to teach at any point. Not yet, anyway. Chocolates by Sea. Harriet saying, I made my first hazelnut praline and melange. Wow, thank you for your help and advice. Absolutely welcome. Darren saying, any idea when you'll be doing your one-to-ones? No, all the classes are off at the minute. I am, the girls, Salma will verify this, I'm literally starting at 6 o'clock in the morning and finishing 10, 11, midnight, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning.
I wake up really early.
And I've already started work. All the classes are off until I catch up, and the volume of sales at the minute with the butters is just gigantic. So trying to keep that going and do all the other things that we've got to do. It's amount to give. It's very difficult to schedule all the one-to-ones because it's down to my time and then also your time, and it ends up like rolling. All the classes are off until probably, I would have thought, New Year. At least New Year. So Philip saying, can't wait to try your bonbons. Awesome. Yeah. I didn't there was a lorry crashed on the island today and shut the island down, so no orders got collected today at all. It's a bit of a delay. So generally speaking, anything like chocolates that come in on a Friday, I would always hold until Monday, because all it will happen is it will be collected by the courier and it will sit in a warehouse Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then nothing will happen to it till Monday. So we'll send a lot of the orders on Monday. So Gerard Bates is saying hello. Callie's joined us. What about the Bahrain course? If you want to join us on Bahrain course, the Bahrain course is for it's 2 lots of 2 days, and we can be doing everything. There's lots of adverts going out at the minute, but we can be doing everything. It's a hands-on class with me. It is going to be, the class is going to be in English, but I have 2 very, very talented Arabic English speakers who are very knowledgeable in chocolate, so they will translate as well in the course if anybody's concerned about that. It's 2 lots of 2 days, 15th and 16th, and then 18th and 19th of December. The most incredible facility. I've never seen a facility like it in terms of like being able to teach in. You name a piece of equipment and we've got it there. In a beautiful country as well. Really, really beautiful country, so which is worth visiting. But if you're the honey, if you are interested, then send me a message. I can get you some more details. I wanted to know if you would do a masterclass. I didn't expect you to come here, but if you would do, I'd love it. Nothing planned to do masterclasses here. I occasionally do group classes. It tends to be with businesses. Nothing planned. There's some tentatively some inquiries for January, February time. I just got to see whether it fits in with running my business as well, because my business is here producing the colours and then also teaching with the hands-on classes, which January and February is really busy. I think nearly every Saturday, every Saturday is taken up, nearly every Sunday as well. So I tend to do the hands-on classes here. That's my style of teaching. Big groups I can do and will do, but I have to travel for. Other than that, it's doing classes here with individuals that we have a lot of people with learning difficulties, or people that just don't want to be in big groups as well. So any master classes, it's got to fit in with what I'm doing in my business. The pistachio Gendu still came out firmer than I liked. I added silk. I wonder if that made it set firmer. Silk won't make it set firmer. It'll be to do with the cocoa butter content or the, the challenge with pistachios is they're very flowery. Okay, so when you put them in, there's not much oil content to them. They're very dry. It's a very soft nut. So there's a lot of fibre in it, but there isn't much oil in it. So you have to add oil to it, or a lot of people add cocoa butter into that mix. The problem with the cocoa butter is it makes it too solid. And it's very difficult to tone down the firmness of cocoa butter. You'd have to use a vegetable oil, not particularly tasty. Or something like a grapeseed oil, which is kind of neutral and probably tastes a little bit nicer. You can buy pistachio oil, which is very nice, very expensive, as you can imagine. It won't be the silk that set that firm. It'll be the cocoa butter content of it and how much. The honey's asking, will you teach us tempering techniques? Yeah, on that class in Bahrain, I'm going to teach using silk, using micro, and then we're going to look at tabling, stroke seeding. I think the thing with teaching tempering is once you understand what beta crystals do and how they react under certain conditions and what they actually are, as soon as I find that with the classes here, once you explain what tempering is, it's like this light switch. Do you know, I had a student here last week who, incredible chocolatier, makes absolutely amazing stuff, but never had it explained in a way that it was like a light switch. You're like, why has it never been explained to me like that before? It's not particularly difficult. It's not particularly complicated. Once you understand what's happening with certain temperatures, tempering is absolutely really straightforward. But it takes some explaining, right? And it takes some explaining and some demonstration here. I've got something for you all to have a look at tonight. Actually, I did a post on this yesterday. That was a problem that somebody was having, but it's going to also answer. I think we'll answer what's happening with shine as well, because there was a post earlier about bonbons not being very shiny, and I'll explain the reason behind that. So we might as well do that now. I said all the hellos, haven't I? So there's a tray there. So the first four are absolutely perfect, perfectly tempered, super shiny. I had my fingers all over them. Super shiny. You should be able to see all your faces in it, right? All super shiny. Yeah. And then the next rows, all this started to happen where everything broke off. Okay. And I did a post about this, and this is purely to do with tempering. There's one there. Okay. So absolutely nothing wrong with the tempering. Nothing wrong with the tempering. You can see how shiny they are on the sides. This had nothing to do with tempering chocolate. Do you know, it's stupid. I posted this on the forum and then realised I wish I hadn't, because I got some really kind of quite rude messages actually. Somebody sent me a message saying, maybe not attempt such a difficult design, or complicated designs like this. Listen to the commentary. So what happened here is, and this is, I warned everybody about this earlier in the year, because I said, like, what happens is in the summer, we cool the rooms down, and we can spray and it's nice, and we can shell and it's nice, and then we have to cool the room down a little bit. And normally if you're working, you know, between 21 and 18 is absolutely fine. If you drop your room temperature a bit lower than that, you start to have problems. What happens at this time of year? So when we get to September, October, everybody's making chocolates absolutely fine. As soon as it drops in temperature outside, all you have to do is crack a window open. As soon as your moulds cool down too much and you then go and shell, absolutely nothing wrong with these. Absolutely nothing wrong. And what caused that is the temperature of the mould. And what we did, we just chilled the mould down. We chilled the mould down. We got a vent, cracked the window open. We let the mould get really, really cold, because outside it was kind of like 8 degrees. And we immediately went in and shelled. The other mould we had reasonably warm, kind of 20 degrees at this end of the kitchen. And then shelled both at the same time. And as predicted, I said what will happen is that the first ones that came out shiny were the ones that were this end, so they weren't directly in that cold air. And when we shelled, you could see it was setting quicker than we could pour it. When we tapped everything out and we turned the mould upside down, you might have seen this. If you got chocolate that's a 3-drop, when you turn it upside down, you get like these bubbles form. And when you scrape it, you just keep pulling great big threads off, because the chocolate's cooling down faster than you can manage it. If your mould's too cold, there's a couple of things that happen. When you airbrush, it ends up looking like velvet, and that's what will give you. That will always lead to having very, very dull. You have a shine, but it's got this really dull. It's got this really dull surface to it. It's not like glossy. It's just a little bit misty. So ideally, you want your mould kind of around about 20 degrees. You don't want it too cold. You want to be able to spray the mould, and it's a bit like the chocolate. You know, I talk about this waiting time. So we would spray the mould, and essentially what we've got is we've got a fat that we're trying to stick to a plastic, and they don't stick, do they? So the mould needs to be cool enough so this sprayed cocoa butter will form a layer, and then it should remain wet for a couple of minutes and dry slowly. And this is where the time comes in. You want that to slowly dry. You don't want that to dry too quickly. After a couple of minutes, you can put that mould, once you sprayed it, you can put that mould into the fridge and just give it 20-30 seconds or 40 seconds, not too long, just to dry that layer so that you can go on and spray it or paint a layer behind it. If the mould's too cold when you spray, what you'll end up, instead of getting a lovely shiny reflective surface where you've got that layer all dry in one and crystallised all in one layer, it's a little bit patchy. If you looked at it under a microscope, it's got all these kind of little raised edges on it, and that's why it ends up looking dull. So you'd spray that cocoa butter. The mould, as I said, you need the mould cold enough so the butter sticks to it, but you don't want it so cold that it creates this velvet effect. And I suppose if you looked at it, if we had a jar of pebbles, okay, if we had a jar of pebbles and you give them a shake, you have all those little gaps in it. If your mould's too cold, when you spray that cocoa butter, where you have things like black, which is a very, very, very small micron, and then it's surrounded by cocoa butter, if you looked at it microscopically, if we cool it down too quickly, we find massive gaps in it, which is why it looks dull. What we're looking for is just that one even layer. We want it to dry evenly, a bit like the shell, okay? A bit like the shell on the inside, okay? Nice and dull. Once it's gone dull, we'd leave it 2 hours, 3 hours, just at room temperature, because you want it to dry naturally on its own and crystallise. If that mould's too cold when we shell the chocolate, what's happened with this one specifically, you can see it on this side. This, I don't think that will even come out. It's rock hard. Oh, it will come out. That's not a tempering issue. This is this one here, look. Same as this one here. Okay. When we pour the chocolate in, because the mould's too warm, the chocolate very briefly, I always shell at 32, but if the mould's too cold, you need to be shelling at 33 to overcome that. So what you need to do is actually warm the room up a little bit, and people suffer this. I see this all, I get sent hundreds of these photos. Why has did I not temper the cocoa butter properly? It's like there's nothing wrong with the cocoa butter tempering, nothing wrong with mine, and it didn't work for that one. Just briefly, that layer of cocoa butter gets melted, okay, and then it cools, and then what I do. I mean, I set a timer. I look at the time, and we'll give ours 8 or 9 minutes at room temperature. So once we've shelled, so we painted the mould. And it's dried, and then we've shelled it, turned it upside down, tapped everything out, given it a scrape. We leave it on its edge. A couple of minutes, as soon as I see that that's dull, we turn it up on its side, and kind of a timer starts. I'll look at the clock, and I line them all up in order, and I know it's only 30 seconds between doing each mould, right? So they'll be out 8 and 9 minutes, just at room temperature. Once it's gone dull, we'll turn them on their side. Even with the weather we've got now, I guess I could open one of the vents and open the window and let cold air come through. That's one way of forcing them to retract. Or I will put them in the fridge on their side, and they'll go in for 1 or 2 minutes, and they'll pull away, and you'll get them nice and shiny. The dull marks always come from the mould being a little bit too cold, or the cocoa. So if you've got a cold mould, if the mould is too cold and then you've cooled your butter to 26, that's going to be a problem. If you look at your, if you measure temperature of your moulds and they're kind of 16, 17 degrees, I'd probably be spraying at 27, 28. So the colder your room, the warmer the butter. The warmer your room, the cooler the butter. And you've got to find that balance, right? When we pour the chocolate in, it briefly melts that layer, because they're exactly the same thing, and you can see they're nicely on the edges. But that layer in the bottom there, when we pour the chocolate in, it needs to briefly melt that layer, okay? And they're two separate things. The chocolate layer is a different layer to the cocoa butter, and what happens is it melts that layer, and then those two layers then cool down again, and they go dull, and then they dry, and then when we drop them below 14 degrees, they both shrink, and it'll come out, and it'll look like that. If the mould's too cold, okay, that layer didn't get a chance to dry. The other issue you got is, if I look on the base of that mould, and you can't really see it there so well, the very, very bottom part of that dome actually touches the table. So I always shell on silicone mat. Certainly this time of year, when it's warmer, we won't use the silicone mats, okay? But when it's colder, this table does get really, really cold. All I have to do is open the window. We've got the wire meshes on it, but if I move the wire mesh and open the window and put the mesh back, this can get too cold, and that's exactly what happened there. The chocolate went in. It almost dried instantly, and we turned it on its side. We gave it the 8 or 9 minutes. We put it in the fridge, and that's the result of it. The other mould that we did was protected on a silicone mat. That was up this end because it was nearer to the dehydrator and it was warmer. We shelled both of them. We had a look at both. That's the result of one, and the other one, they're like glass. So I thought it was just worth explaining what's going on with that, because it's a common thing. I think the challenge with dull black is not black's one of the easiest ones to spray, but it's the most forgiving and it can go wrong. What I would say, like this time of year, we will temper the black, so we will cool that down to 26. Then I'll give it a little warm up to like 27 to spray it, because it's actually, it's a type B, so it's a suspension. You've got all these tiny micron grains floating around in the cocoa butter. I want a nice even mix, is why it needs agitating while you're cooling it. Even when it's in the brush, I'll put my finger over the top. I've got one here. We'll put the lid on. So while I'm spraying, we'll give it a good shake, just to make sure it's still agitated. But I kind of want to be using black at 20, so I'll temper it to 26 to make sure we've got the beta crystals, but then warm it up to 27 possibly, maybe even 28 if the room is very, very cold. And then we'll spray. If I need to, we'll leave that at room temperature, we'll just have a look at it over 1 or 2 minutes. If it started to dry after a minute, I'll turn the mould on its side, just so that all the heat, and it allows all the heat to dissipate and move upwards. Black's probably not the most forgiving, because if you do spray it at too low a temperature, or the mould's too cold and it crystallises too fast or dries too quickly, you'll end up with dull. You'll always end up with dull caps. Having said that, did everybody see Nadia's Nadia's chocolate indulgence. See the red that she's just posted? That's easily one of the shiniest, chocolates I've seen this year. Absolutely amazing. The EzTemper and Silk for my last batch. So pleased with the result. Best yet. Keep improving. EzTemper's a game changer. Do you know, especially want to even if you're trying to scale up, I think it's just kind of one of those tools that you can temper your cocoa butter, you can temper your fillings, but you can also use it for chocolate production. So for the first time I had 2 bonbons out of a set with sunken domes. Nadia, send me a picture. Let me have a look. Send me a picture. I'll have a look for you. Savoury is the same. Right now, so it's 7 degrees at night and 31 in the day. Finding the sweet spot gets frustrating. I'd find a north-facing room, and I'd set the temperature at kind of 18. You don't want to work in a room that's below 18. 18 between 18 and 21 is absolutely fine. I think people cool things down too much. I think because during the summer, certainly Northern Hemisphere, during the summer it's like, oh, it's too warm to make chocolate. Because when your room temperature is 25, 26, it's impossible. But they whack the AC on really up full power and then cool the room down too much and then have other problems. You end up wasting product, right? 20 degrees is more than enough. Made chocolates in Switzerland. Loads of snow there, I bet. Switzerland, it's the land of snow. Worried my shells contract more in the middle cavity, especially with the shells and no cocoa batter, just natural. Could be many reasons. Could be shell thickness, could be how you pour it, it could be how you scrape it, how much you tap. Generally when you're tapping, the shells around the outside are lighter, the ones in the middle are thicker. So we tend to tap in the middle of the mould. So it could be many things. Like if you're using silk, if one, and I see this all the time with mine, even the ones that I turned out yesterday, if the majority, when I say the majority of them have retracted or shrunk, if the majority of them have retracted and there's some around the edge that haven't, we will still go ahead. If some have, then they all will. It just takes time. And then sometimes they're held in by vacuum. Where you scrape the mould down, oh, I haven't got a scraper nearby. Where we scrape the mould down afterwards, so we tip all the chocolate. I'm going to do this, I'll turn this upside down, they'll all drop out. Where we scrape the mould, we get very sharp edges, okay? Very sharp edges. So sometimes they're stuck in with a vacuum. If some have retracted, they all will, right? It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. And airflow as well. When you're cooling them, this is a challenge that people have with wine fridges, is there's not much air circulating. Whereas with my big fridges, when you open the door, you can feel the cold air blowing through, right? So, Chocolate by Sea saying the problem with too cold a mould happened to me this week. It's happening to a lot of people. Just slow it down a bit. Just slow it down much. How much is the import duty and VAT on top of the cost of the EzTemper for the UK? As a business, I didn't pay import or VAT on it. I imported it directly from America, so it didn't, I know it comes from Canada, but mine came in from America. So I got a bit lost with the setting of my airbrush or compressor. What do I do? Spray a clean dot. I used to do it many times. This time I've got like a mist around it and it seemed to forgot how to prevent it. Yeah, spray a dot. If you see splatter around the edge of the dot, turn the pressure up. It's just not enough pressure behind that cocoa butter, and we would set the pressure each time for the cocoa butter we've got, right? Vesta Chocolates, I hope you provide shipping to Oman. I don't know if we ship to Oman. I know we ship to, I just don't, orders go out to Sharjah and UAE, lots go to Dubai. Can't imagine Oman would be any different. I need to talk to Mrs. So Sassy about that. If we don't ship to Oman, I'll be surprised. I'm sure we got customers in Oman. Pretty sure we do. I'm pretty sure we do. I'd be surprised if we don't. I missed a question. The EzTemper, I think it was about £1,000. which seems steep. But if you were going to buy the desktop tempering machines, which kind of run at like £1,500–1,600, for the same thing you could get a 20-litre melting tank and an EzTemper, and you can do more than that tabletop tempering machine. Way much more for the same money, right? So, game changer. Everybody's gone quiet. Nobody wants to ask questions. Let me scroll back. Lots of new names here. If you've got questions, fire away. If I know the answer, I'll answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know. I'm not going to have a guess at it. It will be based on my experience. Always. If you've got lots of mist when you're spraying, there's a difference. If you're spraying a mould with a dome and you're getting lots of mist blow back at you and all your hands here get covered, there's too much pressure. Like just because your compressor can go to 65 psi doesn't mean you have to use that much. And anybody who's joined a subscription this week, I've shared some commentary on how I do certain designs. I'm going to do some more as well to add to that, so that we get a big catalogue of how certain designs are done, or my thinking process behind why I would grab a certain colour over another colour, or how we would back it, or why we would back it, what would cause opacity and translucence and all that kind of thing. If you're spraying, you're getting lots of what looks like tiny splatter around the outside. You haven't got enough pressure. We need enough to put the butter through the brush, but not so much that we got mist going up in the air. And I think it's a common mistake that people fill that with butter, crank the pressure up full and give it a big spray. The higher that pressure, the more that's going to come out and the more that you are going to waste. And overspray is where it lands everywhere. This spray is in a cone shape, so the higher that pressure, the wider that cone gets, and the more overspray that you will have. Overspray is when it hits everywhere. Like if you were aiming at this and it sprays around there, that's overspray. Mist is just turn the pressure down, because you don't need it going all the way up. Certain colours, get very, very misty. A lot of the type A's will spray very, very misty. So, Woodrow Chocolates. How are you, Simon? How do you keep your second bowl of tempered chocolate warm for pouring? I lose the temp if I do a double pour out of one bowl. Very often, so with this one here, let me grab one. I can get 4 moulds. I can get 4 of those moulds from that one bowl. So that bowl has 1.7, 1.8 kilos in it. So we will melt that to 34. We'll add the silk at 34. At that volume, we'll use a stick blender, or I will use my favourite. We always add silk with one of those. We'll always whisk it in. Try not to add air to it, but it breaks it up. So we whisk the silk in that way. I'll pour the first 2 moulds. So we'll pour the first one. So we'll pour the first one and then shimmy that off. That will sit to the side. We'll pour the second one, shimmy it off. And then this one, I won't pour the third and fourth. What we will do is give that a warm for like 3, 4, 5 seconds and just get that temperature back up again. And then all the consecutive bowls, because we'll hold the chocolate in a melting tank at 35, I'll just scoop it into a bowl, and I'll have 2 bowls. I'll pour between bowls to cool it down if I need to. As soon as it hits, again, it depends on the room temperature. When it's slightly warmer outside, you get a little bit more time. At this time of year, when it's a bit cold, you've got to work hard. I think that if you need to warm it, it's just how aggressively you warm it. I can use a microwave, but it will go in 3 or 4 times for like 2 to 3 seconds on full power, and we'll give it a stir and we'll measure it. We'll put the Thermapen. Thermapen will go against one of those, right? While we're stirring, it goes actually that way. We'll hold it that way, right? So I can give it a stir with that one and just see where I'm at. But I kind of want to maintain that 32, so if I need to bump the heat up a little bit, what I can't do is put it in the microwave for 10 seconds and walk away. It's not. It's 2-3 seconds, give it a stir, 2-3 seconds, give it a stir. So that's for mould 3 and 4. And all that chocolate gets tipped back into the melting tanks when we're doing bigger volumes. And then if we've got individual chocolates where we've got maybe 2 bowls of dark, 2 bowls of milk, 2 bowls of caramelized and a bowl of white, that's in my hand. I mean, we got some clever kit, but this is in my hand constantly. I use this 1,000 times a day. So whilst I can get 4 moulds worth in there, I don't pour 4 at the same time. We'll pour 2 comfortably, and then we will measure it. We'll give it a good mix, and we'll give it a measure. And if it needs to go up 1/2 degree, we'll use a hairdryer. Don't use a heat gun because it ends up melting the bowl. Or we'll put it in the microwave if it's dropped ready. But generally, I don't shell below 31.5 because we're adding silk and we're using chocolate as it's cooling down, not warming up. That makes sense. So, silk's a game changer, but you need to maintain that temperature. Thinking of making a coffee bean croissant dragée. Would you recommend coating in white chocolate or milk? Maybe not white. I do it in milk just to keep that, like the expectation of coffee is it's not too sweet. You want to keep that bitterness, don't you? White chocolate just might make it a little bit too sweet. I'd maintain that as a milk chocolate. Temper newbie, silicone vault mold versus plastic. I don't use the only thing I use silicone for is for the silk blocks. The only thing we use them for is for the silk blocks. You will not get the shine. You will not get the shine from silicone. And then for people that are doing, I feel for these people. You can get the silicone molds that do the hot chocolate bombs, the hot cocoa bombs. You need to pour a really thick layer because they don't retract out, and you end up, as many people message me saying, how do I get the dome out of the silicones? Like, well, you have to pour 2 or 3 layers because it's just too thick otherwise. And then when it's too thick and you put it in a coffee or you put it in a mug, it doesn't melt. So chocolate's got to be the temperature of the milk's got to be the temperature of the sun to melt the cocoa, the hot cocoa bomb. I wouldn't use silicone. It's a pain. It's a real pain to clean. You end up, is it already here? Sometimes I don't have one. Sometimes you get this mist. These are all squeaky clean, so there isn't any. Sometimes you get this mist appear on silicone, and they're just impossible to clean. And you will never get. You can get the chocolate to release from it, but you will never, ever, ever get a shiny. You will never get that from using silicone. Ever, ever, ever. Wave, everybody. Silicone, it's not easy to clean, and it does actually absorb the fat. The other thing is that I can polish these, all right, and they're much easier to manage in terms of weights, measures, polishing, all of it. But I know they're not cheap, but some of my molds there I've had 7 or 8 years, and we're still using them. Try not to polish them too much. We tend to clean the outside. I try not to wash the inside because it gets scratched, or it can get like micro scratches over time. There is one mold that's got a scratch in it, and I can always see a line. I don't know which mold it is. I keep meaning to mark it, but like when I see it, one of these days I'll remember to go, right, let's just move that one to the bin. But it's one cavity out of 32, so that's one of the ones that I can accidentally eat, isn't it? So. Simon, just finished a 1 of a 3-day event. Christmas in full effect. Happy days, mate. Love your stuff, Simon. I I've asked, I know Simon's probably listening here. Simon moved from, gosh, they were working in a small cupboard, and I think he'd be happy if I described it. He was working in a small cupboard at home, to having like their own full facility built. I need to get Simon on. We need to have a chat. I think some people in Chocky Chat would love to ask him or listen to the story of how they made that jump from kind of part-time chocolatiering to absolutely full-time, full setup, kind of bespoke kind of garage kitchen, fully kitted out, right? You know. Hashim is saying, sometimes when I use a hand blender, the chocolate changes the texture. What does you mean, Hashim? Do you mean it thins it down or it over thickens? Because you know, one of the issues that I've had with there's a couple of hand blenders on the market. Got my blender here. Yes, I do. This is a bar mix, not cheap in the slightest. But if I go from there down, it's a sealed unit. Okay, so if I put that in the sink and I wash it, I can dry it. There are 2 machines in the market, and you get water that can go down. It can ingress into the stem, so that when you go to stick blend, and if you know, if I have a bowl of chocolate, all I need is a tiny drop of water to go into that, and it will seize, and it will just turn into a giant, but it really thickens. I think if your hand blender is changing the texture of your chocolate, I would have a look at what the hand blender is. I think the nice thing about bar mix is there's a seal between the end of there and then this stem. Like I said, I can run that under water, give it a really good dry, but there's no danger of water going into this stem. That's what I like about bar mix. Not cheap. This replaced my last one, which was about 20 years old. So, and the last one was hanging on. It was hanging on, and it was the long stick one, and it been through probably a dozen kitchens and many hundreds and hundreds of chefs that had dropped it, used it, abused it, and I had to replace it in the end. But yeah, I quite like that. Somebody said to me it adds too much air in. Put that in, okay. Tilt it so there's no air bubble, start it off slow and then bring it up slowly. You'll find that it will blend, but it won't add air to it. Okay, and I use that one. It's the little cross. So that blends it really nice. But yeah, I just check that you haven't got a blender that's allowing a tiny drop of water into your chocolate, because we know that chocolate and water are not friends. Tiniest little pin dot, you've ruined it all. Tillia Chocolates, hello. And what else have we got? I use 1,500 for 3 of the 539 plus molds. How do I manage to do it in 4? Lots of practice, many thousands. I do 1.8 kilos, so 1.8 kilos in that bowl will do me 4 molds. I don't have lots left over though, I'm quite accurate, right? So, I'm quite accurate. Hi, from near Nottingham, starting up again in the new year after at home after a break. Can't wait to buy and use your products. Oh, Karen, you're welcome. We will be here. Business to business 3-part mold for hot cocoa bombs, cheapen. PWB 3-part mold. For the hot cocoa bombs, silicone seems like the answer to start with. And then if you need to make lots of them, you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't bought these. I wish I bought polycarbonate. But there's 3-part molds. It's a good answer, May. So the wheelie machines look like they're a good solution, but you need to seed with them. I know people that have got wheelie machines and they set the chocolate to 33 and they add the silk into the main bowl, and the wheel just keeps it agitated, and it can they have to put a heat gun on it all the time. 2 people I know now that have gone from wheelies, sold the wheelies, and then bought EzTemper and a melting tank, right? So hardest job I've got is to melt enough chocolate. The next step up is really is continuous tempering machines, which I guess we can afford. I don't teach students with that. I don't really want to bring students here and then say, use this machine, and then when you get back home you need to spend 15,000 on a machine so that you can be a successful chocolatier. Actually, no, we will melt chocolate in a bowl. we'll explain EzTemper, we'll explain seeding, because that's kind of how I teach. And because I teach like that, I also make chocolates like that, even if I've got many, many thousands to do. You know, if I've got 3,000 or 4,000 bonbons to make, I have enough moulds and I have enough melting tanks, because we'll put 25, 30 kilos on to melt. And I set myself up just for doing that task. There's nothing else going on. I mean, hopefully on days like that, I don't get lots of phone calls and, can I call you? Have you got a minute? Can I call you? No. Somebody sends me a message saying, can I call you? And I don't answer. That means you can't call me. Plagued with WhatsApp. Random calls from WhatsApp at the minute. I have issues with cocoa butter dripping out of the gun on my last mould. On this one here, we take the, this is just called a cutaway. Take the cutaway off. And on the back there, that's the needle release. So that's just the thumb screw for the needle release. That won't come out because it's cold, okay? So that one will be done up. The next one along, which is this one here, if you undo that too much, when you press down for air, that just holds the spring for the trigger. If that's out loud, if the trigger's too hard, right? Because when you get these new, that spring's quite strong. If that trigger is too hard, what you can do is just undo that. So anti-clockwise will just release it a little bit. If you come back too far though, when you press down, cocoa butter will travel along that edge and it will drip out the back here. So it needs to be done up hand tight. And if you want to loosen it, no more than 1.5 turns. Okay, it'll make the trigger really, really soft. So, you know, everybody at this time of year. The other thing I'd say, everybody's got trigger finger, haven't they, this time of year? Because I love doing this with students when they come for a class. When they start spraying, they like grit their teeth. And it's like, show me your finger, and their finger looks like that, just like with a round dot. And it's like, just gently. It's not like, just gently. Michelle, you know what I'm talking about. Michelle's like, look at your fingers, you've got white knuckle right. If you've got buttercup dripping out, it's normally this one here. So just tighten that one back up. You'll find that it's quite, when you get these straight from the box, very often that's very, very loose. So all that is a spring guard to hold the trigger in place, but it's that's not working at the minute because there's cocoa butter in there. So it's just a spring guard, that's all it is. All these little things. Been playing with these for a very long time, so I know exactly what's going on with them. I'm having trouble calculating recipes for volume. I take the mould cavity size, subtract the shell weight, and still seem to get too much. Should I take the cap into consideration too? Absolutely. We would. This is, so you want to take an average, right? You want to take an average. So we want to get a set of scales, and we would look at, and you only need to do this for 1 or 2. Because we're looking for the shell weight, right? So I know that like this mould on its own weighs 410 grams, okay? If I shell that and I tap everything out, it tells me that I've got 62 to 64 grams of shell, so we'll call it 2 grams per shell. 2 grams doesn't mean, so it's a 13 gram cavity, but 2 grams doesn't mean that there's 11 left, because it doesn't take into account thickness. If you have a white chocolate that's quite light, a dark chocolate that's quite light versus something like gold chocolate, which is very, very heavy, you might find that those gram weights are more. So different chocolates, different weights, different densities, okay? What you want to do is when you come, the reason that I know that if I shell, not that mould, because that's 533, 539 is that one. If I take that mould, 539, once we've shelled, the reason I know that takes 292 grams of caramel, okay? So I always call it 300 because it's just easy. You get some stuck in the mold, not a problem to have 1 or 2 shells left over. What I don't want is half a bag or a full bag, right? So you would want to, you can either, if you've got good enough scales, you can pipe and fill on top of the scales, or you can take the measurement empty, write that down, fill them, weigh it again, and that will give you your rough weights. But just because it's a 13 gram doesn't mean you've got 11 grams left, actually, because you still got to get a cap on top of that, which we'll call that a gram. It's normally 0.6, 0.7. depending on how thick if you do them as 1 mil, which you'll never be able to do, you'll end up with cracks and splits in them. So don't do 1 mil shells, 1 mil caps, sorry. Of that 13 grams, you're probably looking at 9 grams of filling, 9 to 10 grams of filling out of a 13 gram mould, right? So the mass isn't as easy as you imagine. Thinner shells, more room, the filling less dense. A ganache is going to be much lighter than a caramel, for example, whereas an almond gandouille is going to be much heavier than a hazelnut one. So it varies. I think you just need to get an average. I think mine are all 292. I always call it 300 grams of filling. 300 grams of filling is more than enough for me. Any more than that, and I've got additional waste, right? For that mold, for that 539. Yeah, Hashim, I suspect that's a little bit of water in the stem on that and that hand mixer. There is another. I'm quite picky about what whisks I use, right? So I've got this one. This is a flat head whisk, okay? And that works really well. But can you see here where it joins and there's a little gap? If that gets washed and water gets into there, water can drip down there, and you only need a pin drop of water to go into chocolate and your chocolate's going to seize. And I'm very picky. I like Matfa whisks because the handle on it is injection molded on, so there's no gaps, there's no water for anywhere. This is my favourite scraper of all time, and we're not using it now because it cracked here and it holds water. And I noticed that when I was tapping moulds, I saw these little flecks of water. And I looked at it, so that's resigned to. We don't use that for chocolate now. That's for scraping the tabletop only. But you learn these things as you go along now. You just got to analyse everything that's going on. Analyse everything that's going on and ask yourself why. A pin drop of water that comes from a machine. And there's a young lady in Czech Republic, Meg, she's got a continuous tempering machine put in, and an AC unit, and the AC unit was overhanging where the tempering machine was, and it drops in, and she's come in the next morning and it's like 30 kilos of chocolate absolutely ruined, right? It doesn't need a lot of water in there. Yeah, Erin, I saw that. Looks like a good idea, that, doesn't it? So there aren't enough square molds. I think I've got some square molds, but they're a little bit too small. A little bit too small. Francis there, he's at Harrods. Hello, mate. The best way to clean it after spraying. Spray out the excess, give it a wipe, put it away. These were never designed to be taken apart all the time. Just don't. They won't. You'll thread them, ruin them. I know people that put them in ultrasonic baths, ruin them. Spraying alcohol through. Just don't. Just empty it. Spray out the excess. Give it a good wipe. Put it away. Any cocoa butter that's in there will solidify and protect the working parts. It was never designed to be constantly taken apart. They're not. You will end up ruining the threads, and they'll just get thinner and thinner, weaker and weaker. The more you take that needle in and out, the more you're going to ruin that front aperture, and then your 0.8 is going to turn into a 1 mil, and every time you press down, you're going to get butter spray, and you'll be replacing it in no time. Just a bit of wipe down. James, in the same vein, when calculating calories for a recipe, how accurate do you have to be per bonbon when the volume, say, may vary a little bit depending on the shell and cap thickness? I'd take an average. It's acceptable if we're doing calorific counts. It's acceptable to do an average. Okay, so whether you want to go with the smallest one, it's highly unlikely they will come back and check and break a chocolate down, Nadia, and start weighing the individual components of it. If you're able to say my average shell weight is 1.6 grams and my average filling weight is 9 grams, and then you can calculate back from there. Calorific values are suggested, so it's a suggestion. It's a suggestion that this is how many calories. Sorry, I've got all sorts of messages coming through. It's a suggestion that this is the calorific value of one bonbon, right? Creative Confections, what's the brand of your favourite scraper? I don't have a favourite scraper. I just, whatever's nearest to me. If I go back 20 years, we used to use a metal ruler because we hadn't realised. We just had this heavy metal ruler and we had to scrape a la, like, you know, great big heavy thing. And when it used to get bent or dented, somebody was losing their job, right? So that was back in the day when one tiny mistake dictated whether you had a job tomorrow or not. I don't have a favourite scraper. I just, some are too, whatever's nearest to me. I don't have a favourite. I don't, you know, we have 4 or 5 or 6. Whatever's nearest to me. I'm just not that. I have favourite blenders. I've got favourite ones of those that are quite solid and not really, but I mean, these are solid, right? These are really solid. There's other ones on the market. The set that comes with this one, that one's really solid, same brand, this one, right? And the problem is when you're wiping this off, yeah, it flicks and you end up like doing a splatter of chocolate and then you look like you've fallen in the bin. So I get a bit picky with those things. Other than that, I don't have a favourite Thermopen. I always use Sophia's. I have got my own. I just grab whatever's nearest to me. I don't have a favourite. I don't, you know, like you know, there's dozens of pairs of scissors. Not my thing. Not my thing. What's your ideal gram size for bonbon moulds? I don't, because different moulds, different sizes. I've got 2 moulds there. That's 539. Same size mould. One's 12 grams, one's 13 grams. That one is 553, so that's a plain dome. And then this is a straight-sided dome. Okay? There's only 1 gram in it. Sorry, there's 2 grams in it. I think that's 13, I think that one's 11. No, there's 1 gram. That's 12, that's 13. Visibly, the 13 looks like a bigger bonbon when you put them side by side. Both of them would be different weights, totally different weights, right? So I don't think there's an ideal size. I think you're just looking for an even. Again, there's no bonbon pleater, so you know, if you use a 3-drop chocolate, you're gonna have quite thick shells. If you use a 2-drop chocolate, you're going to be barely able to fill them. Equally, if you use a 4-drop chocolate and you tap too much, you're going to have really thin shells that probably won't retract very well. I don't think this is an ideal size. I think that you need to work on how well that edge is formed, so it's nice and sharp so that we can cap nicely. The shell integrity, you know, it needs to be thick enough so that it holds the filling. These ones, I don't think there's an ideal weight. I think there's an ideal structure, right? Because these are shipping off. This is the next collection. These are shipping off all over the place. Okay, so if the shells are too thin, because I focused on, you know, I only want a 1.4 gram shell. If that's my focus, then I'd expect to have a lot of broken. God, I get messages everywhere here. I'd expect shells to be cracked or broken or what have you. So sorry, just so many messages coming through. So I don't really focus on the weight of that shell. I focus on how well it's formed and how good the edge is, so that we can get a good cap. Because I think the integrity of a shelf life filling is not just that recipe; it's also the structure of that shell and how well it capped it is. You can have a long shelf life recipe, but if the shelling is rubbish and the cap is crap, we might not make it to next week because it's got big air holes in it. So I wouldn't focus, you know, you want an average, and I think the more you do chocolate, the better you get at it. Couldn't tell you what I think I did it on here. Should we have a look? I've got some micro scales. These maybe aren't the best ones to look at. So 1.87, and that's 1.87, 1.93, 2.1. How thick's the cocoa butter layer? 2.82. Depends on that cocoa butter. It's like every single one's different, right? 1.86. So, sorry, 2.86. 3.06 there. So let's have a look down this end of the ones that didn't retract out at all. 3.16. So different things, different happenings. How much you tap. I wouldn't focus too much on the mold weight of it. I would focus on the consistency of it, shelling, good clean capping, good edges, well formed shells. Right. If they're a little bit thicker and you like them, it's your business, right? How do you clean the airbrush for the first use? I put a tiny bit of cocoa butter through it. So when I get a new airbrush, we will change the needle. We'll change the needle over, give it a good wipe down, and then we'll just put a tiny dot of cocoa butter through it, spray that through, and then that will go into the dehydrator at 60 degrees. When they're brand new, there's not, in terms of clean, there's no oil, there's nothing in them, so they're always dry. They're always dry. What size air cap is on my Fuji spray? My Fuji spray, it's a 0.8 air cap on the front of it. Can I grab it? 1 second. That one's a 0.8. The air cap is a 0.8, and the needle's also a 0.8. So the needle that's in this is the same size as what's in this. But the power behind it, shall I take the needle out? I'll show you. The needle's very, 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 very chunky. Will it come out? That's the needle for it. But it's to do with the aperture where that sits in. But you need to master airbrushing with one of these. You need to master this before you jump to that, because there are no controls on that. All there is a little valve, and if you get it wrong, you know, one of these big bottles, one of those big bottles will fit in there. Two of those will fit in there, and I can empty that. You know, if we get the settings wrong, I can empty that out in a minute and a half, and you probably spray 3 molds, so you got a lot of recovery. 0.8. I think it comes with a 1.6, and I think it's a 0.8 that I had to buy, but the 0.8 needle was about £180, so big boy toys, right? So we will break this out when we're doing 100 molds plus, right? If we're not doing that many. If I'm back spraying 50, 60, 70 molds, I'll probably use this. Other than that, yeah, we'll decide. You know, this is why we did type A, type B. This is why we've got different, you know, a couple of different yellows, is to make that decision. Do I want to spray in red and then back it with white, or do I want to grab a red that doesn't need backing? So I've saved myself a whole kind of issue, right? For my metal scraper, I went to the local hardware store, picked up the thinnest one that was stainless steel, works great, absolutely same thing. All my moulds are from Implast. I only use Implast moulds. They are a bit more sturdy, right? They are a bit more sturdy. Right, it's gone 9:30. I'm gonna get away. I'm gonna go and have a drink. I'm gonna go and put all the stuff away that I've used. I'm gonna put all the stuff away that I've pulled out. Sam's here.
Hi, Chucky Chat.
Right,
Bye.
we're gonna go. Have an amazing week. I will answer emails. I'll get to all that. Can you just bear in mind that right now it is absolutely crazy busy for us at the minute. It's absolutely full on. Every day seems to be an 18-hour day at the moment. So, and I'm tired and exhausted, and my hips are on fire, my hands are all burning, and yeah, it's all good though. Seren's busy making makeup. Seren's busy making makeup, aren't you? You're designing makeup today, aren't you? You're going to climb up here. They can see you. They can see you there.
No.
Have a lovely...
I'm getting hot.
Wait. You're not climbing up. Put those ones in the fridge for
I
me.
might be dropping a business.
You might be dropping a business.
Because I want to make cakes.
You want to make... Yeah, you want to be a cake maker.
I I made a body scrub. It makes your skin softer. I put it on. It makes the bumps less, so less bumps. But there's a slight problem.
What's this got to do with chocolate?
Like
a body
layers.
scrub.
There's layers. First it's a foam, then it's honey, and then it's
They are all
sugar.
going to start their own businesses, and we're going to help them, because if we don't teach them, who will? And I don't want them to be employees. I want them to have their own businesses, because even for everybody in Chocky Chat, you understand there is something very, very nice, and the freedom that having your own business provides. Yes, it's a little bit scary. Yes, it can be challenging. Would I want to go back to work for somebody else? No, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen, is it? You can have your own business. Maybe you have many businesses. Two things happen in business: you either give up or you keep going, and it works. That's it. Keep going. It will work. Just keep going. Keep going.
That's
Keep going. Well, actually, we started off doing chocolate. Now we're doing this. Right? Was never the plan. That's just kind of how it went. I was always going to teach. It was always going to happen. I was always going to teach. I spent my whole career teaching chefs. Right? So keep going. Two things happen in business: you either give up or you keep going, and it works. That's it. Keep going. Have an amazing week, everybody.
Everybody keep going, and if you make chocolate,
What?
you will be an artist.
You're an artist if
And
you make chocolate.
if you buy the cocoa butter that you can previously see up there, then you'll be
So you're a
able
sales
to
pitch.
make beautiful
Are you sure you're not going to
colours.
go into sales? You're going to be my sales and marketing
No, I'm
strategist.
going to be a cocoa butter. Oh wait, no, that name's already
You're going to make your own brand of skincare products, aren't
Yeah.
you? That's the plan.
Yeah.
Let these people go. They've got to go and have dinner.
Bye.
Bye bye. Have a lovely week, everybody.
Bye, everybody. And if you buy my dad's chocolates, I'll give you a free discount if I get my business, and I'll give you free
We don't
cupcakes.
give free discounts. We don't.
I give them.
Bye bye. Take care.
I give free discounts on my cakes. Bye.